Welcome back. Now, who would have thought that children can understand about healthy eating, and how do we solve the age-old problem that parents have trying to force their children to eat healthily? Well, joining me now from Bay Naturopath is Jaine Kirtley. Welcome to the show, Jaine.
Thank you.
Now, when we're taking a look at eating, how do you get a child to eat well?
Well, you've really got to explain to the child the importance of food, that food isn't just sort of there's something on their plate to be eaten, but it actually helps them feel happier. It helps them grow, helps them feel stronger, helps them look lovely, beautiful. You know, just tell them this is all the things that food do. It's not a lie. Absolutely true. Yeah. So explain to them the importance of food. That's number one.
Yeah, because I know when I was reading your research, I was quite surprised because you said in your experience, children from probably the age of 3 can actually recognise what foods make them feel good or which foods make them feel maybe cross or angry or a little bit sick. Yeah. That's fascinating.
Yeah, they definitely can do that with some guidance. So guidance with, say, a naturopath might help point that out, or just the parent might say, well, you know, when you have this, you don't have those cross times and you're not all upset and crying, and the child can sort of understand that. So if you say you have to avoid whatever, the lollies, because every time you have lots of lollies, you have one of these temper tantrums and you're feeling cross, the child will understand and will eventually think, oh well, I mustn't have lollies. Occasionally the parent might say, oh, I'll give you a lolly today, or a bag of lollies. Say, well, why? Because that makes me feel cross, Mummy. Why are you doing that? You know?
Yeah.
And it's interesting that the child will actually take it on, probably better than the parent can, actually.
That's really hard for parents because they're the ones that need to take it on board as well, because they're encouraging their children, you know.
Absolutely. And you've got to really say, when you're giving your child a treat, what sort of treat are you giving? What is the end result of this so-called treat? And if it's that the child isn't as healthy or isn't growing as well or is feeling cross or disturbed or unhappy about something, that really isn't a treat.
No, definitely not. Because I know there's long-term benefits from eating properly, isn't there?
Absolutely, absolutely. All children need food to grow, have nutritious food to grow. If they don't have that kind of diet, they won't grow well, and their behaviour will be affected, their mental health will be affected, their physical health will be affected, and quite interestingly, not only that child, but that child's children, if they go on to have that. So it goes on for generations. So if you manage to take the effort and succeed in feeding your child very well, you're actually helping not only your son or daughter, but possibly your grandchildren and maybe great-grandchildren too. So,
definitely. Yeah. Well, you don't realise how many different aspects of life is affected by it. I mean, because you've also got your education, you know, and being able to concentrate in school if you're, you know, feeling well. So what do you say to parents who say, oh, but they just won't eat veggies? You know, they just don't like fresh fruit, you know? Is it something that you just have to keep forcing the child?
Not necessarily forcing, but you keep working on, and sort of appreciate that some children will learn to walk or read terribly quickly, and they hardly need any help at all. And yet others need an awful lot of time and effort. But just don't give up. It's like any other skill, don't give up. So with veggies or fruit or whatever food, it's quite handy to just say okay, we'll have 1, 2, 3, whatever, foods that are on your don't like list. So it might be carrots and onions or something like that are on your don't like list. Then the next day cabbage comes along. The child says, well, I don't like cabbage. Say, but it's not on your don't like list because we've already got onions and carrots. Well, I want to add it on. Okay, then we've got to put the carrots back in or the onions back in as the okay food. So as long as you don't swap the list around too much, that allows the child to really make some firm decisions about which foods they really do not like entirely, or others that they can kind of tolerate. The other thing is to give sort of smaller portions if you're introducing new foods to a child and you think they're struggling. So be happy if they have just a couple of bits of carrot rather than a whole big pile, and just give them some encouragement for that.
Should we be maybe giving a little treat, like as a prize for eating, or encouragement? Is that getting a little bit dangerous?
It is really, because it should really be, this is the expectation. I mean, every time your child sits down and tries to read, if they're at that age, we don't give them a huge treat for that. We just say, well, we're working on this, and we might do a treat at the end of such and such time if they've really struggled. But it's interesting how we look at foods as treats, and interesting how we often say, and if you eat that up, or if you do such, and I'm going to give you this dessert, this chocolate pudding, and we have this whole big scene about chocolate pudding. So from a very early age, the child thinks it's a big deal to have a chocolate pudding. But if you pick another food group, and I tell you a little thing I did with one of my children, I decided to try out onions, because onions were particularly things children don't really like. So I thought, well, okay, I'll make a big scene from the time a child was a baby. Every time I presented onions, I said, and we've got onions today, yay, onions. And you know, that child, every time there's onions served, is always looking at everyone's plate. Oh, I haven't got enough onions. Where are my onions? And to this day, you know, the child will always want onions. And so it was a bit of a game I played myself, but it just shows, really illustrates a bit how we can sort of talk some foods up a storm, and others we say, oh, you've got to eat your onions. You know, they don't have to be boring foods. We can talk it up. So a bit of fun. You can have a bit of fun with this.
Talk about veggies like they're your favourite dessert and the way the child's going to pick it up.
Find out some. So which ones would you like me to buy when I'm shopping today? What veggies should we get? You know, include the child in it all the time. Yeah.
Fantastic. Great tips there, Jane. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Jaine Kirtley there, Bay Naturopath, taking a look at how to get your children to eat more veggies. It's a great couple of tips right there. Right, coming up after the break, well, Hamilton, it's not the home of the vampire, but of the long-tailed bat. We find out more next.